Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Eczema Uncovered. And tonight I have a guest who's been living with eczema for 15 years. Her name is Bea Thomas, and she lives in London, UK. And she's coming on tonight to tell us her story, her experience living with eczema. I'm going to invite her on right now. Oops, let me try and get her on. Hi, Bea, can you see me?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
No, pleasure.
So, Bea, I wanted to just ask you if you could just give us a short introduction about you before you start telling us how eczema has basically your experience living with eczema, when it all started. But if you want to just give us a short introduction about you.
Oh gosh. Yes. Well, I'm 49. A mother of two boys. Married. Live a quite healthy lifestyle. For the last, I think, 13 years. Been working out, eating healthily, very careful with my diet. Yeah, I think, and I'm self-employed. I work in the events industry.
So just begin to take us through your journey from the very beginning. For example, how did it all start and when did it all start? And do you know what type of eczema as well you could tell us?
Well, mine started when I was actually a child, and I had it for a few years, and it cleared up. And in my teens, and in my 20s, and in my mid-30s, and then suddenly I don't know what type of eczema it is. The doctors couldn't tell me. They're not even sure if it is eczema, but this rash just appeared on my back, basically, and I've had to live with it. I've lived with it ever since. It's not severe, incredibly itchy, really flaky, and it flares up. Well, I noticed it flared up in certain situations and always cleared when I was abroad on holiday. So I used to think it was to do with the sun clearing it up, drying the skin, or it was something that was different when I was on holiday, and I narrowed it down. It was actually diet related that was causing the flare-ups.
So when did you start to take a handle on your diet? Did you understand what food triggers there might have been, or was it just the whole complete dietary change for you?
No, it first started with food triggers, because when I was on holiday, I noticed I didn't eat bread a lot, so wheat.
Right.
And when I came back, it would flare up, and it would be a tiny amount of wheat, just one slice of bread, and I noticed that it will become very raised, itchy, sometimes sore. But the moment I'd stop eating any wheat product, it would disappear. Well, not disappear, it would calm down. It would calm down. It would always be there. So over a period of like 2 or 3 years, when I was just experimenting and changing my diet slightly, I noticed some things were, I noticed, just different triggers. Like sometimes it was itchy after I ate something. It tends to be sugar-based, or what else would trigger it off? Definitely bread, biscuits, anything to do with wheat. White pasta, but not whole pasta. So then I decided, well, it can't be wheat because I'm eating wheat and it's not triggering it. So it was lots of experimenting, and it was only last summer, I just got fed up with it and contacted the NHS and went to the doctor and said, look, you've got to sort this out, because it wasn't just, I had other problems going on as well, diet related. I said, there's something I'm intolerant to, something my body doesn't like. Let's sort it out. So that's what happened from November last year. And all through, where it ends up being through lockdown, I discovered that what foods that triggered the rashes, basically.
And so when you went to the NHS, what did they recommend in terms of you managing the eczema?
It was the nutritionist, because going back, I'd been going to the GP for years saying, look, there's something wrong, come and see, like, let's do tests. And they'd give me pills and cream, steroids, and all these things. And they would work sometimes, other times they didn't work. So I got fed up with that. And I didn't like using steroids anyway, because I like to go the natural route, personally. But on this occasion, because there were so many other factors, I had stomach problems as well, issues combined. They said, let's go through a proper, it was the Fodmap diet, where they eliminated practically most food groups. And I had to eliminate them for 12 weeks, and then one by one introduce the foods to see whether I reacted to them. So it's quite a basic test we're going back to.
Right.
Over a long, well, luckily we went into lockdown, so I was doing it over lockdown as well, where I could go through and isolate, find out the trigger foods, which I did.
So you're further along in terms of understanding what your food triggers are now?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And was, just out of curiosity, was dairy one of them?
Yes, so lactose intolerant, as well as fructose, which are the sugars. Funny enough, what else came up was onions. Onions. I get affected. It's just random, and obviously wheat, which I kind of knew. I guessed that one.
Yes, there are different types of wheat, because you've got drum wheat pasta when it comes to the wheat, and then there's also semolina, and there's whole wheat, as in the wheat grain, the traditional wheat grains. So what are you doing now in terms of, so you're quite healthy with your diet, you're very, I mean, you've had to be.
Yeah.
And I know you've taken stock of your diet, and how has it been working for your eczema following a Fodmap diet, taking out the common triggers that are caused by eczema, which is, you said your sugars, the wheat, and again, refined foods as well, things like cakes and biscuits. And so how long has that been that you've actually been following a more healthier diet? And when did it start to change for you, or has it changed for you?
I think over the last 3-4 years, when I've been looking at my diet specifically, because before the Fodmap one, I did one where it was Whole30. I don't know if you've heard of that one, where it cut out pretty much everything, and you just ate fats, meats, protein, and vegetables and nuts, basically. And that cleared up my eczema. So that was great. But then reintroducing the other foods, which you can do afterwards, so more fruit, whatever, brought back the eczema. So that's why I thought, let me try the Fodmap diet. So when I was trying the Fodmap, so I said that was from November 2019, and I finished March, at the end of March of this year. And that's basically where, and then since then, I have followed it loosely. Of course, things slip into the diet. I bake cakes, so I have to try them. And yeah, and then I know, yeah, I can, if I have small amounts, it's not so bad. It's managing the quantities. That's basically, if I go full out, drink alcohol, have a pizza, whatever, guaranteed flare up.
Yeah, but you expect that, and you know that, right? So
yeah, exactly.
But you know what to kind of eliminate, when to stop, obviously, and not continue that. But what about, when you were growing up, living with eczema, particularly around your teens, what was that like for you at that time, having to manage it?
I didn't have it that bad when I was a teenager, partly because I went to boarding school, and the food was actually, it was fantastic off the food we had and diets, and I existed. It was amazing. I had a proper kitchen and chefs, and it was very good. So I existed on salads, and I ate quite healthily back in there. So I didn't sit. But when I went to university, when it did flare up, and where I wasn't so careful, I was looking after myself. I was eating all the junk food, actually, being
student diet.
Student diet. So that wasn't great. But I kind of ignored it. It was just something I'd lived with. I'd always had, and I just lived with it. So, but fortunately, it hadn't spread to over my body. It was just confined. At the time, it wasn't. There was only a tiny patch on my back. It wasn't that grew in my 20s, 30s. The patch. So yeah, when I was younger, it wasn't that bad.
And what about the type of skincare that you've used over time? So you mentioned steroids. How long were you taking the steroids, and how did that help or not help?
Okay, I remember taking the steroids like 11, 12 years old. Yeah, and it would help. It was relief. It would clear it up for how long you use the course for, and then for a few weeks afterwards it'd be fine, and then it will gently, slowly, gradually come back. I mean, I remember Betnovate. I think that's the one we were prescribed a lot, and it was a norm. You just went to a GP. My mother wasn't that really not interested in clearing it up, but she just went to the doctor, got the prescription. That was it. We didn't look into alternative remedies or anything like that. It was only when when I was living by myself and could afford to try other things. But to be honest, I didn't try many other alternatives. It wasn't until I was in my late 30s that I started going alternative healthcare, to herbal shops, trying the homeopathic route, which I did for my son. Actually, I tried that route just to get it under control.
And so tell us about some of the natural homeopathic things that worked and didn't work, because tell us, in fact, before you answer that question, your son has eczema.
Yeah.
And he's 9 years old, is that right?
No, he's 17.
Oh, he's 17, excuse me. So he's 17, he has eczema.
Yeah.
And you've both tried, you've tried going down the homeopathic route for him and yourself. What are some of the things that naturally were working and weren't working, and did it have a lasting effect?
Oh gosh, that's going back, because my son had eczema from it developed soon after his birth. So I went down. I went to get some remedies, and I can't remember what they were. I'm so sorry. It was such a long time ago. But I remember.
Were they the ones that were they sort of specialized shops? Was it something online?
It was a specialized local shop in Hither Green. So yeah, and I remember the time thinking it was working, but then it came back, and there was just periods. He'd have blocks like me, years of no eczema, and me thinking, oh, it's gone. It's just childhood eczema. It's not going to come back. And then suddenly it will flare up badly, and his is far worse than mine. And it will flare up in the usual elbows, behind the knees, his chest, and his face. And to be honest, the homeopathic remedies didn't work for him. So I did try steroids, and the steroids do clear it up, but it's not a long-term solution.
Yeah, they suppress the immune system, which is why it kind of has that temporary solution, but in the long term, obviously, you can only be on steroids for a certain amount of a period of time.
Exactly. I mean, I don't like using them because I'm aware it thins the skin. It's not good for you, and I'm not into some of these medicines and creams that the GPs prescribe. So, having said that, I've tried the diet thing with my son as well, eliminating certain foods, and he also suffers from hay fever, and I know they're connected. So, yeah, eliminated like citrus is a major trigger we've discovered recently. Yeah, and it can be the tiniest amount of citrus, something in like lime and guacamole, and he'll break out.
Oh, wow.
And so he's quite sensitive to that, and tomatoes, apples, anything fresh. So he's very sensitive to a lot of plant-based products.
Yeah, they sound like some of the, the things that may have a higher acidity in them, like especially tomatoes. I remember cooking for a school where we had a lot of allergies, and there were some foods that were quite bizarre for some children, but some of the main triggers were things like tomatoes. There was even a child with bananas, apples, sesame. And again, like you say, you've been very proactive in going down the route of doing an elimination of foods and understanding from your experience what you can now sort of pass on with your son, and you're discovering for him. So what are you both using at this moment in time on your skin, and is it working for both of you? How has that, tell us what you're using on your skin at the moment.
Well, I'm using one of your products. And you know what? I'm embarrassed. I've never said the name of the product.
Dermazeam. I know people actually struggle with the name Dermazeam.
Dermazeam. I just
quite a long name to.
so
quite a long name to remember. I forgive you. Don't worry. I actually changed the name. It was a little bit complicated because it was Eczema. And people kept saying Dermazeam. So I thought, Dermazeam, that sounds a bit.
I won't forget that. I won't forget.
So you're using Dermazeam.
I am.
Skin renewing cream. Yeah.
I swear I'm not being paid by Carol, everyone.
No, she hasn't been bribed.
I've been using various products just to just soothe my skin, just to see if it will help. And I saw this on Facebook. I saw this product and I read the recommendations and I thought I'd give it a try. And oh my goodness, within 3 or 4 days, the eczema on my back, it not only had cleared up, I didn't feel the lumps that they usually were on there. Like if I run my hand over my back, I would feel the rough skin. And that cleared up within between 3 and 5 days of using the cream. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, how many years have I suffered? And this just cleared up instantly. And now I use that. Now that's my body cream because I love the way it feels, how my skin feels when I use it. And I don't have to use that much either. It's just a little bit, goes a long way. And I did use it. I did buy it initially for my son to use. And initially it did help his eczema. But then when it flares up, it just gets out of control and nothing seems to calm it down. So at the moment, we're just using shea butter to just.
There's got to be some other underlying work that needs to be done with his eczema. And obviously, once you find out the root cause, then you can start working on the external. Like shea butter, how is that working for his skin at the moment? Just the shea butter alone?
He says it's fine. It's not itchy. It's not flaky. So he's moisturizing his skin. The eczema. Actually, I haven't checked recently. 17-year-old boy doesn't want his mother to be fussing about him. On his face, it's calmed down a lot. on one side. So it seems to be working, but it's not. I mean, he's been asking for steroids because he just wants that quick fix.
Yeah, I think anybody, there's no shame, and people do need steroids at a given time because you don't want it going into a full-blown infection. And it is there to kind of arrest the symptoms. Yes, it does suppress the immune system. That's because eczema sufferers have an overactive immune system. So it helps to calm things down, which then helps to arrest it at that given time, but over a long period of time. Unfortunately, steroids aren't the answer, but for now, it's helping him.
Yes, yeah. This helps, and especially during these formative years. I mean, he's very aware of it and conscious, and so he doesn't want, to be looking different, I guess.
And what about you? The mark, you said you had some dark marks on your back, or was it discoloration of your back? My daughter's back was literally like leather. It was a very dark color to the rest of her skin.
No, that's exactly what mine was like. It was very dark. It was, I mean, obviously I didn't see it all the time, but everyone would say, "Oh my goodness, what's wrong with your back?" kind of thing when I was in a swim costume or a bikini. And it was, so I was very conscious of it, very aware that I had these markings. And that was mainly and when I used the cream, that cleared up. And that's what I couldn't believe. That's like, discoloration is so much more. I mean, you can barely see it.
Really?
My skin tone's even. I wish. I mean, I could flash my back, but I have been eating.
How long has the scarring remained on your skin like that?
I'd had the scarring for years. Literally, when I noticed that I had when my back started itching and I developed the eczema, that's when the scarring developed. So I always had it, it was always there.
That's brilliant.
But now I'll be, if I ever go on holiday again, be more confident to show off my back because it doesn't look. It's just clear. It's clear. It's incredible.
Great. I mean, there's a story of a young boy whose name was Caleb, and he had a pigmentation on the back of his neck he was very conscious of. And his mother purchased this cream for her hands. She had extremely dry hands. And he, overhearing our conversation about the cream, he decided it might work for him. And I got a call from his mother, and it was within 5 days. And I went to go and see them. She said, "You've got to see this." And we actually did a video review, which is on YouTube, where he spoke quite candidly about this mark that bothered him, and it was pink in color, and in 5 days it had disappeared. So the ingredients are 100% natural. There's no bleaching agents or anything. It's just the formulation that help to soothe the skin, take down inflammation, repair the lacerations on the skin, and it hydrates, and it also removes dark scars. And for some people that might take a bit longer. How long do you know it worked for you in terms of fading the discoloration for you?
Okay. I think it definitely within, I don't know, 10 days. It was quick. I was surprised it was so quick. And I did wonder, is there something else in here to make it clear?
There absolutely isn't. It's literally 4 ingredients. I had it approved because, of course, there are a certain amount of oils you can use with the emollients. So there's shea butter, raw organic shea butter, West African from Ghana. Our cold pressed virgin coconut oil. I use the true absolute lavender oil, and I use a cold pressed organic African frankincense oil. And it's just those ingredients combined which actually help to make Dermazeam what it's been doing. I think I know from the time we launched it last October, we've given 2 refunds because we offer a 30-day money back guarantee. And if it doesn't work for somebody, whatever, no questions asked. We had 2 people it hadn't worked for in that time to now. So
Wow.
every time I hear these stories, and hearing you having had the discoloration for 15 years, and within 10 days, the discoloration going, that's pretty, I'm still surprised. And it's great to hear the feedback.
No, and I mean, I still use it, and I use it even to soothe. When I do go off plan with my diet and it does flare up, I just put it on straight away just to calm it down and just soothe it. So it's been a godsend, this cream. I'm so glad I spotted it on Facebook.
Brilliant. I'm really pleased to hear that. I mean, in your son's case, obviously it didn't help for him at the stage he's at now. There's some work that needs to be done, to look at the root cause, have a look at his diet. And there's so many different types of eczema in terms of contact dermatitis as well. It could be environmental. It could be a number of things. And, I'm sure you'll get him there because you've been very, very proactive in, looking at what has worked or hasn't worked for you and seeking out the right help. And if there's anything you want to tell us at all, say for somebody because you have a child with eczema, anyone who really wants to go down the path of trying to understand what could be the problem as to why they're having flares, where do you think would be what would you say would be where the first place to start would be?
Oh gosh.
In your experience?
Oh, in my experience, well, with my son, and I just remember this, the eczema returned when he was in his teens, so he was about 13, 14, when he started showering twice a day. And it dried out his skin. I think that's what, and I think that's how it developed, because he had all these years without it, and suddenly it came back. And then it had been off and on since then, until for the last few years. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
That you took some measures for both you and your son in terms of trying to find out what was really the underlying cause of the triggers, and if there was maybe 1 or 2 things you could give anybody some information about how they could probably just go about finding out what could be the cause, the underlying root cause for them. And everybody's different, but generally.
Okay, yeah, generally I think diet plays an important part in it.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah. Obviously don't just cut out everything. But I mean, the Fodmap is do it 1 at a time over a period of 3 days, and just take a little bit, write down to see if there's a reaction, and then second day take a bit more, and then see if there's a reaction, etc. So yeah, that step was invaluable to do that. And then secondly, because there's so many other factors, stress, see if there's anything mentally going wrong, because I think stress causes mine as well, my flare-ups. And I mean, I'm on it. I know exactly what my son is eating. I mean, he's during lockdown, it's easy. I know where he is. I know what he's doing. So it's easier to monitor, to see what could trigger his flare-ups. And for me, it's a lifestyle. The health, the food and lifestyle just completely changed around. Less alcohol, just more vegetables, more fruit. I've always done organic since my son was born, actually. Been eating organic meat and vegetables since then. And just be more mindful about how, how I
mindful when you're eating, mindfully, so you can see maybe you might have an inkling of what might be triggering your eczema flares. And obviously some of the obvious things can be alcohol. I mean, high in sugar, acidity. I know for one lady we had on here, at some point she had said tomatoes were a trigger, but there were certain tin tomatoes that she could have that weren't causing her to flare. So I always believe that starting with diet is a good starting point, just to find out where your triggers or your flares may be coming from, and then moving on from there. And you've been quite fortunate in getting referred by your GP and getting this support.
Yeah.
So did you have to ask them to really get you? Did you see a nutrition for the NHS, or was that from your own? Referring yourself to someone?
About 7 years ago, I went privately to a nutritionist, and nothing really came of that. And then last year, I went to the GP only because of the other symptoms I was having. It was just, there was something wrong. There was something my body was not liking, and I was in pain. So that's why I got referred finally to NHS nutritionist, and then that has been the most impact in my life. And I'd suffered from IBS since I was a teenager, and that has gone.
I guess because you might have had the complication with the IBS as well as the eczema. Then you got they referred the nutritionist as well because of the complexity.
Yes, but taken 20 years.
I know, unfortunately. I'm so sorry it's taken that long. But I'm really pleased that at least you found something topically which helps you. And not only has it soothed the inflammation and the dryness, it's actually got rid of the marks, which is fantastic.
I know, that's incredible.
The discoloration's gone. That's great news. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here tonight, giving us your story and speaking with us. And I wish you all the best with your son. In fact, I'm going to get back in touch with you, B. I have some idea of what I might like to recommend to help you along your journey with your son. So I'll definitely be back in touch with you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I just want to say, because we've got, we're live, and if there's people who are looking at this on Facebook, and it's being streamed live to YouTube platform, if there's anybody who has any questions at this moment in time, please let us know. Oh, I think somebody says, hi, B. Can you see it?
I see some questions. Yes, I do. Facebook user. I see. Yeah. Do I have any tips on for new eczema parents? I'll go back because someone else has mentioned the showering every day. I did notice when I first had my son, of course you bath them every day and everything, and part of me thinks that doing that causes natural oils or something to come away from his skin, because my other son, he didn't have it, and I didn't bath him every day, and I was more, I just did what do you call them, just wash downs and everything, and maybe bathed him like twice a week, and he doesn't suffer from it at all. I mean, it could be anything, it could be genetics, I don't know, but I really think when my eldest son started showering every day and it came back, it was like that was the the primary cause of it. That didn't help.
No, it didn't help. It would have dried out the skin somewhat, wouldn't it? Because especially if he's suffered with eczema before, and then you're bathing every day. The skin becomes drier. You're losing moisture, and it's obviously something that might not have obviously cleared up completely. So for him, so yeah, less bathing, maybe just wash downs, and
and of course moisturizing all the time, but using the right moisturizer, not perfumed. And shea butter's wonderful, you know.
It actually locks in the moisture for shea butter. It protects and locks in the moisture.
Exactly. And I'd been using all sorts. I've been using olive oil, baby oil at the beginning, because just keep the moisture in, but actually baby oil made it worse. So basically I was just experimenting, seeing what worked and what didn't.
The mineral oils in baby oil are not great, and it is perfumed as well. I'm quite I, as a mother, did use baby oil when my babies were young, and even though my son didn't have eczema, you put it on, it would go into the skin, and then his skin looked like it hadn't had any moisture to it at all.
Yeah, it's very strange how it reacted. And I used to actually use it straight out of the shower, so I didn't dry myself and put the baby oil on. But that did cause my eczema to come back or flare up, because I don't know why. I didn't look into it, but I just thought, okay, that doesn't work.
It is. If we look at the ingredients, there are a number of ingredients there that, I mean, it's not natural. It's not a natural oil. And there is something about petroleum oils as well, which I talk about on one of my YouTube channel videos called What the Health Next, where I go into more depth about mineral oil itself. But once you're using the natural emollients, which are in balance with the skin's pH, you'll find you're going to get better results. So once again, thank you. Somebody says that's interesting. Thank you, B. Thank you again, B, for joining us. Just one other tip, and I had mentioned it in one of my lives before, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you in conversation before we came on here.
Yeah.
But there is an app called Clean Beauty, and you can use that app to scan your products in your bathroom. And what it does is it gives you an idea of anything that it could cause irritation to the skin. It also breaks down the ingredients and any possible harm it may do. Some people might be okay, but it gives you quite a clear indication of some of the things that we might want to look closer at. But it's quite a good app you can just download on your phone.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Yeah, have a look. I'll tell you, I didn't know that. I can't even say this, the soap. I was about to blurt it out. I have to be careful. But there was a particular soap that I was using that seemed, very creamy and white, luxurious on the skin. And it scored it a 9 in an app that I used a few years before I discovered Clean Beauty, called Think Dirty. So it scored at a 9 out of 10. And I thought, from that day, and it's many years later, I have not gone back to conventional soaps. I stick to something called African black soap. I don't know if you've used that yourself.
No. I've been traumatized by soaps from Africa when I was a child. So I'm very wary of
that has coconut and shea in there, and it has cocoa potash and plantain leaf. But yeah, it's been great using it, and it doesn't dry. It hasn't dried out my daughter's skin when she was suffering with eczema. It didn't, and a lot of people have started using it alongside the cream. But you're doing really well. Stick to what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight, B. And we'll catch up again about your son. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.